Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, classmate. Today we will discuss about organizational leadership. Leadership is the process whereby one individual influences other group members toward the attainment of defined or organizational goals. This definition contains three important aspects. First, leadership involves influence. Second, leadership involves goals attainment. And lastly, leadership requires followers. So leadership is a process whereby one individual influences other members through empower and inspired people and also share their vision for their organizational goals. Leadership involves influence. Leadership is an influence process. The influence process is one in which a leader changes the attitude or action or attitudes of several group members or subordinates. Research has shown, for example, that leaders influence the organization structures, followers group culture, levels of motivation, performance, absenteeism and turnover, and the quality of their decision making, communication patterns, and their receptivity to change, curriculum implementation, and group learning. For example, kung ang leader sa isa ka group or organization is late or absenteeism. So, the company's performance may suffer or the attitude would have been adopted by the followers. So, ikaw nga leader, dapat responsible ka para ma-achieve nimo ang or to have a successful organization. So, next. Leadership involves goals attainment. Leadership involves the exercise of influence for a purpose to attain defined group or organizational goals. That is, leaders focus on changing the action or attitudes of group members that are related to specific goals. The leaders of a group or organization are the individuals who exert such influence. An effective leader helps a group or organization to achieve its goals. An effective leader does not. So we all know that an effective leader helps a group or organization to achieve their goals, while an effective leader does not. Leadership requires followers. Leadership requires followers. The influence process implies that leadership is reciprocal. In other words, leaders influence followers in various ways, and leaders also are influenced by the followers. Furthermore, it may be safe to say that leadership exists only in relation to followers. One cannot lead without followers. Leadership and management. The terms leadership and management tend to be used interchangeably in every speech. However, the two terms, although overlapping at times, are not identical and need to be clearly distinguished.
Good morning, I am RJ Chef Kamaya from BSED Math 1A. So for my assigned topic is this table, which is the comparison of leadership and management process in the workplace according to Cotterman 2006. So we have here the process, management, and leadership. For the process, we have vision, networking, and human development, execution of vision and vision outcome. So first is the vision. For management, we have plans and budgets, design the process steps and decides upon a timeline, has an impersonal attitude towards vision and goals, keep an eye to the bottom line. So for the leadership, we have it sets the direction and create the strategic plan. It's passionate about achieving the goals, and realizing the vision and keeps the eye on the horizon. So for management is kanang more on managing, and for leadership is kanang mag-lead siya ang mag-lead. So for networking and human development, we have staffs and organizers. For management, maintenance structure, delegates responsibility and authority, displays low emotion. For leadership, align organization, communicates the vision, mission, and direction, influences creation of teams, coalitions, and partnership, displays drive and high emotion. For execution of vision, for the management, it controls process, identifies problem solving, and analyze results, takes low approach to the problem solving. So for the leadership, it motivates, energizes, and inspires employees to overcome barriers to change. Takes high risk approach. Instead of low risk, it takes high risk approach to problem solving. So for vision outcome, for the management, it provides expected results constantly to stakeholders and leaders, and manages vision, order, and predictability. So for the leadership, promotes useful and dramatic changes, such as introduction and new product or new approaches to improving labor relation. So makita man yun nato ang kalayan sa management and leadership according ni siya kay Cutterman 2006.
Hi, I'm John Michael GT Pakaten. This is the part of my report. So, difference in leader behavior styles as identified by the LOA researchers. So, sourced by the adapted from Kurt Lewin, Ronald D. Pitt, and Robert K. White. So, behavior, we have the policy determination. So, it is a formulation means a process outlining and the initiation, cancellation, and final approval of plans of action by the council. So, the authoritarian is solely by leader, democratic by group's decision, and laissez-faire is no policy complete freedom for group or individual decision. So, the next one is establishment of the job technique and activities planning. So, the authoritarian is the solely by leader, and the democratic by the leader suggestions, suggest groups choices, and laissez-faire is up to individual. So the next one is the planning. So solely by leader, and the democratic by the group receives sufficient information to obtain perspective needed to a plan. So laissez-faire is to systematic planning. And the next one is the establishment of the division of labor and job assignments. So the authoritarian is the dictated by leader, and the democratic is left to a group's decision, and laissez-faire is the leader and involved. And the last one is evaluation. So it is the leader personal and praise and criticism. Democratic is the evaluation against objective standards, and the laissez-faire is to no appraisal is spontaneous evaluation by other group members. So that is the for my part of the report.
The Big Five model of personality structure. First, surgency. Surgency measures the degree to which an individual is sociable, gregarious, assertive, and leader-like versus quiet, reserved, mannerly, and withdrawn. Some of the more common personality traits associated with this dimension include dominance, capacity for status or social presence, the need for power, sociability, or assertiveness. Contains three important aspects. First, leadership involves influence. Second, leadership involves goal attainments. And lastly, leadership requires followers. So, this dimension assesses how outgoing and leader-like an individual is compared to how quiet or introverted they are. So, leadership has three important aspects, right? Involves influence, goal attainments, and requires followers. There are some of the more common personality traits associated in Sorgen C, which are being dominance, sociability, or the act or an instance of being sociable or being confident. Next, agreeableness. So, agreeableness measures the degree to which individuals are sympathetic, cooperative, good-natured, and warm versus grumpy and pleasant, desirable and cold. Personality traits associated with this dimension include likability, friendly compliance, need for affiliation, and openness to love. So, agreeableness is individuals' agreeableness is measured by how they are appropriate to one's mood, good-natured, and passionate, as opposed to how grouchy, nasty, and hot-headed they are. So, the personality traits connected with these dimensions are being an openness to love, cordial compliance, and the urge of connection. Next, conscientiousness. So, conscientiousness differentiates individuals who are hardworking, persevering, organized, and responsible from those who are impulsive, irresponsive, undependable, and lazy. Personality traits categorized under this dimension include prudence and ambition, will to achieve, need for achievement, dependability, constraint. So, the personality traits that fall under this dimension are the ability to discipline oneself by the use of reason, reliability, and the act of constraining. So, individuals who are diligent, persistent, and responsible are distinguished from those who are prone to act or impulse, being responsive, unreliable, and indolent by their level of conscientiousness. Next, emotional stability. This dimension of personality concerns the extent to which individuals are calm, steady, cool, and self-confident versus anxious, insecure, worried, and emotional. Some of the personality traits associated with emotional stability include composure, self-awareness, and acceptance, and affect. So, emotional stability. This personality traits refers to how calm, stable, and self-assured people are versus how uneasiness and emotional they are. So, the personality attributes related in this dimension are having a calmness or repose, especially of mind, acceptance, and an awareness of one's own personality or individuality. Next, intellectance. This dimension of personality concerns the extent to which an individual is imaginative, cultured, broad-minded, and and curious versus concrete-minded. And having narrow interests. Personality traits associated with this dimension include curiosity, broad-mindedness, tolerance, and openness to experience. So, these personality traits refers to how creative and inquiring a person is versus how narrow-minded they are. Curiosity, open-mindedness to new experiences are personality traits related with this dimension.
Theories of leadership. Fiedler's Contingency Theory, 1984. According to the theory, and the effectiveness of a leader in achieving high group performance is contingent on leader's motivational system and the degree to which the leader controls and influences the situation. So kabalo man jud tano para maka-achieve ang para ang effective na leader is ma-achieve niya ang high group performance is kailangan ng leader og motivational system og sa iyahang control niya sa iyahang mga members, which is kanang gina-guide niya ba. So, according to Martin Evans and Robert Howe's path goal theory, emphasis the leader's effect on subordinate goals and the paths to achieve the goals. Beverly Irby's Synergistic Leadership Theory 2002 includes issues concerning diversity and the inclusion of the female voice in this theory. Leader-member in exchange theory, the quality of the relationship between the leader and each group member has important job consequences. Reciprocal influence theory. Certain leader behavior cause subordinate behaviors, and certain acts of subordinates can cause leader to modify behavior. Transformational leadership. Leadership is proactive. So, kabalo naman tas proactive, no? Kay gidiscuss man to ni ma'am. Then, works to change the organizational culture by implementing new ideas. Employees, achieve objectives through higher ideas and moral values. Motivates followers by encouraging them to put group interests first. Transactional leadership. Leadership is responsive, works within the organizational culture. Employees achieve objectives through rewards and punishments set by the leader. Motivates followers by appealing to their own self-interest.